Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Podcast series. This is Lakshit Pant from Azure Developer Community. We are back again with another episode of the Tech Podcast series. So in all these episodes, we have been, discussing with all the industry leaders about the latest tech development, generative AI, industry, multiple industry we have covered, HR, maybe fintech, edtech, and multiple things. And for today's podcast, we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Netra Neelam ma'am. So she's a professor and director of Symbiosis Center for Management and Human Resource Development. So we'll try to grasp from her experience how has been her experience driving the institute, and what is exactly the situation of the industry right now, and how she believes what are her predictions of for the future when we talk about the HR background, right? So let's quickly start the podcast with a quick introduction of Dr. Netra ma'am. So ma'am, if you could introduce yourself first for our audience.
Yes, thanks, Lakshit. It's really a pleasure to have a conversation with you on this podcast. I'm Dr. Netra Neelam, been in the space of higher education for the last 22 years. Of course, educational background, somehow I feel, I was able to cover everything while I studied. So at the graduation level, I did my specialization in marketing and costing, which was a bachelor's in commerce. I just had an opportunity to have two specializations, And then at the master's, I did my costing I did specialization in costing. And later on, I went into the field of human resource management, and I did my MPhil in the area of performance appraisal as a part of human resources. After that, I thought I should do a little more, and then I ventured into the field of postgraduate diploma in human resource management, and I
Wow.
really got interested in this particular field. And further I said, okay, let's specialize a little bit more, and I went into doing a PhD in the area of human resource management again. And that
Wow.
time the topic that I chose, which was really very dear to me, which was in the area of training effectiveness. And being in higher education for the last 22 years, I think I have been able to explore, all the specializations that I have studied while I take care of SCMHRD.
Wow, you have been a continuous learner, I believe, right? Your experience tells a lot, and it's an
Yeah.
inspiration for most of the people out in the industry who just want to drop off even even before completing their graduation or so, right? You have been a true inspiration for all those. So, tweaking a little bit that this podcast into maybe into the HR domain, I would like to know, can you share about your journey specifically as a director of the Symbiosis Institute, right? How have been you landed to into this venture, and how has been your experience working with an educational institution especially?
Yeah, and Lakshit, after having done a PhD, I thought we should understand human beings more. Of course, one can at any point of time believe and say it's impossible to understand a human being, but nevertheless, you must try. So I also did certifications in psychometric instruments. Of course, we'll talk about it a little more later, where you talk about personality testing and you talk about career investigations and some kind of analysis. Then you talk about how fundamental interpersonal relationships really matter, and then talking about how teams can come together. Now, all this really helped me a lot in my journey in higher education, And when you look at this, and for me, it was always a conscious decision. I didn't come to education by chance. I came to education by choice. And after having understood human resources so much, I thought getting into academic administration is the right thing to do. And so when I started my journey at, of course, a very junior level, and I entered as a junior lecturer, 22 years back. But then from then, I went one step at a time. And if you ask me, how was I able to move in my career from a junior lecturer to becoming the director of such a prestigious institution is I never stopped learning at every point in time. So when I entered, I was just a master in commerce. All the degrees and all the certifications that I mentioned to you right now, those were accolades which I gathered on the way. And probably this is one thing I would like to tell everyone, if you want to move up the ladder, you must keep learning. You should keep
Yes,
having
absolutely.
knowledge, and I think that is what helped me move from just a junior lecturer to the director of this prestigious institution.
Yeah, so ma'am, you have been, so when we talk about your decades of experience and as a evolved HR, how do you see the, industry of HR? Because for me, being very, very young, I will say, all these terms that you have mentioned, all the certification that you have mentioned, right? The specialization that you have already done are very new to me. I'm hearing these, I'm wondering, does these things exist? Do people, what are these things? For me as an individual, I do not know. For me, HR is something like who just takes care of the the resources and whatnot, right? In the in organization of particular company, right? That's pretty much simple for me. Like I every time, today when I was doing my homework for this podcast series, when I was preparing some questions, there were some there were some multiple acronyms that I saw what is this. I just like to know a little bit more. That curiosity always kicks me in, right? So I realized this. I used to think HR is the most simplest job in the world, right? What could be, what, how is it's the most simplest job? But then I realized, wow, what goes in and inside here, right? So I want to know from your perspective, how do you see field of an HR maybe evolved in all these 2 decades, right? When you have started, and again coming back to your, your professional journey, right? How you saw these all in all these 2 decades?
Yeah, so people feel HR is the simplest thing to do, just like you. But believe me, the most important and critical aspect of any individual's life is to manage human resources and to develop them to their full potential. So a lot of times I feel, it is never human resource management, it is always human potential management. And this is where the trick lies, where you look at capacity building of every individual. And I personally always believe, none of us are prescriptions, we are all descriptions. So it's not, just I need to do this particular thing only. No, I'm not made for only this. There are multiple other aspects to my personality which I still have to keep on exploring. And as you just now mentioned, the acronyms that you see. So I told you I have done my MBTI. Now, what is MBTI? MBTI is Myers Briggs type indicator. This is a personality test. Now I'll give you one small little example, which will help all youngsters understand why there is a need to study systematically this entire world of human resource management or human potential management. Say for example, all of us have some preferences in life. Okay, and if there are lots of youngsters who are going to watch this podcast, you would have your parents who keep on telling you, can you please tell me what career do you want to get into? Each time after 12th standard, a parent comes and asks you, oh, what career do you want to get into? And you say, wait, I have still not decided. And then you go to your graduation, and the father or the mother always, again comes to you and says, okay, so now can you tell me what do you want to be? And there is a child who says, no, I still want to take time. Yeah. And then if the parents have the personality of closure, okay, then it becomes very difficult for them to accept a child who wants to keep exploring possibilities. But believe me, having closures is one type of personality. Looking for more possibilities is another type of personality. Now, seriously speaking, I always used to wonder, why is then there is a conflict between, people who want to close early versus people who want to keep exploring. And it is only when I went into this entire field of psychometry, at that time I understood, oh, these are different personality types. Similarly, you will find there are some people in the office, who enter the office and start talking to everybody right from the time they enter the lift to the time they go to their cabin. Whereas there are others who are in the office working the whole day, but none of them or none of the colleagues ever understand that they were there in their cabins. Now, both these types do exist in organizations, and only when you understand and learn to know what is human behavior systematically, at that time you realize, oh, there are some people who have preference for introversion, there are some people who have preference for extroversion. And that's the way you need to understand human beings. So, at never, at no point in time will you ever be able to claim, I know my people all through. At every given time, understanding individuals is a challenge. But believe me, if you look at it as a challenge, you'll never be able to manage them, or you'll never be able to help them grow to their full potential. Every person is an opportunity. Every person is one particular individual who needs just that nudge to be able to do better. So all the testings which I did now, interpersonal relationship orientation, fundamentals, So for example, just now I'm talking to you. Yeah. Now there are two, three things
Right.
that you are controlling some of my conversations and I'm controlling some of your conversations. Okay. This again is a part of interpersonal relationship orientation. Now, this is something which I studied systematically through psychometric testing. So this sometimes is a surprise to me. Just a moment, I'll just have a sip of water. A lot of times people take human beings for granted, and I think they are the most important individuals who cannot be taken for granted.
So as you have mentioned about multiple terms right now, I just wanted to tweak the podcast to a little bit from the technology perspective, right? How do you see the the role of natural language processing and the hypnosis and coaching and leadership development, because you have in the core of that domain? I would like to know your thoughts about it.
Yeah, I think the first important apprehension that I saw people had with artificial intelligence was, will artificial intelligence wipe out human resources from the industry? But believe me, that will never happen. Yeah, because it is a man who made the machine and not vice versa. Yeah, so artificial intelligence is an absolute boon, I feel, when it comes to managing your work or workplace, because that probably is going to give you good amount of insights in terms of standardization and customization of various HR processes. So what I see evolving in the area of HR is, people are now moving from organizational commitment to occupational commitment. Yeah, people are very keen to contribute meaningfully than just look at only security and money as the career anchors. And it is artificial intelligence which will actually help us move in that particular direction. In fact, a lot of times you would have seen pop-ups on your screens, which say, look, you are a person who learns by listening, or you are a person who learns by, visualizing certain things. Now, how does that happen? The screen is absolutely, able to understand the way you talk about spending your time, or the way you talk about interacting with certain individuals. Today we talk today most of us spend a lot of time on Netflix. Now what happens, the kind of movies you watch on Netflix then probes to you and says, probably you may like this. Similarly, when you talk about artificial intelligence, the work of HR will become easier when HR will be able to guide the people in terms of understanding probably that individual's training need, and then popping up some opportunities, or giving him some kind of an indication of which particular aspect of a course, or what particular domain knowledge should he be talking of, or who should he be taking in order to be much more productive. So I definitely don't see artificial intelligence as a threat. In fact, I see artificial intelligence as a good amount of support to HR managers today.
What advice would you like in the field of management studies? What advice you would like to give them?
I seriously feel, every individual should learn how to manage. No matter what functional domain you are from, functional domain will give you functional expertise, obviously. But until unless you are able to, capitalize on those functional expertise by managing them well, I don't think people really get real successful. So some of them learn management through experience, and some of them take formal training. But personally, after seeing the way MBA is evolving today, mm, I would feel every individual should get into this particular domain of management. You learn how to do business, you learn how to look at things from different perspectives. And today we see, so when I look at a cohort that comes to my institution, we have a doctor who is doing his MBA. Sometimes we have a gynac who does an MBA, a dentist who does an MBA, a chartered accountant who does an MBA. Most engineers you will see who come and do their masters in business administration, and architects come and do some of one of our program which is in the area of infrastructure development and management. So
Right.
I feel having functional knowledge is, yes, very important, but a good management education will give you the behavioral skills that will help you apply this functional knowledge in various domains.
And ma'am, when you have already discussed about this part, but I really wanted to know again, what role do you think mentorship and networking with the local community, with the global community, and with pan India level, right, could help in career advancement, maybe with those in any domain?
Yeah, so of course, networking has now become a part of your existence. So the other day I heard somebody ask me, "Ma'am, do you have a YouTube channel?" So, and I was like, "No, I never felt the need to have a YouTube channel." And that youngster spoke to me and said, "For us youngsters, if you don't have a YouTube channel, means you don't exist." Now just imagine. So they feel everything that exists today exists only on this particular platform, where you talk about various kinds of networkings. So you do something, and if you're not on Facebook networking, then probably you've missed something. So definitely I feel, networking is very, very important, not only to understand best practices, but I heard from Dr. Mashelkar, I'm sure you know, he's a great scientist of India, something very nice. He said, let's not only talk about best practices, let's talk about next practices. And I think networking will definitely help us move in that direction. Similarly, when you talk about mentorship, of course, none of us will ever feel now we are complete and we do not need any more advice, or we don't need somebody's opinion. Mentorship brings in a beautiful perspective in an individual's life. You just have somebody whom you can trust, someone who can actually let you know where you went wrong. So everybody in life should have a mentor for sure. Now that mentor may come in various roles. You may have your own parents as mentors, you may have an older sibling as a mentor, you may have somebody senior in your colleague who will be your good mentor. Your boss can be your good mentor. Your subordinate sometimes, if has a little more experience, can be a mentor in a different direction, because today we also have the concept of reverse mentoring. So
Right.
Lakshit, generally your age group mentors our age group in understanding and using technology to its full potential. So
Right.
I absolutely feel, networking opens up your perspective. And the more diverse your perspective is, the better you are able to understand situations, not only in the, your own geography, but also globally. So, in my experience, of course, I have worked a lot in India, with Indian students, you can say. But currently, I am on the Asia Pacific Advisory Board of AACSB. Now, AACSB is a body who accredits B schools, and it is a 100-year-old body. Now, today, when I represent India on that global forum, I don't only understand what is going on in India, but I also understand the educational perspectives which others have in Asia. So
Right.
all these things definitely matter. So networking plays a humongous role in developing you as an individual, and in also developing your perspectives in this particular field. And I personally believe, if you have the right mentor in life, I'm sure your career, whether it is, in the beginning, or it is mid career, or probably you want to shift career and move in some other direction, you must have a sound advisor. And mentorship plays that important role.
And now, what are your thoughts being a leader, being in a leadership position? I would really like to know, what are your thoughts upon the role of women in leadership positions, and especially in academia and business part. How do you see this? Because this initiative is specifically around we, because Microsoft has been driving multiple initiatives around women in tech now. So we have this fresh initiative that we launched, Code Without Barriers, in here in India, after a successful phenomenal success in Singapore, right? We are just about to launch the program here in India. We have done some meetup series here in India in multiple sectors, colleges. How do you see women coming in the leadership forefront and taking the leads and taking it to the next level?
Yeah. So most of the times, tell me, Lakshit, see, I'm from the field of education, and the moment you say teacher, the first gender which actually comes to your mind is a woman. Yeah. So this is our mental model, correct? And the field I am into, so we've always seen, lots of lady teachers right from our childhood. Yeah. And if we had a male teacher, generally we would see that male teacher who used to take up our physical education, or used to come and talk about drawing or maybe visual arts. For all other things, we always used to have an image of a lady teacher. But I have seen over a period of time, when you move into higher education, uh, somewhere women have to lead. Yeah. And the role of women in leadership is absolutely something which you cannot and should not ignore. Now just imagine, if you ignore, or if you do not appreciate the women leaders, then you are actually not taking care of 50% of the demographic dividend that you have in the country. And I feel, when it comes to women bring a very different perspective to the entire leadership domain. You'll find women who don't talk about compelling, but they will always do compassionate convincing. And I think that is what makes a difference. A woman is able to understand the hidden, what do you say, pains or the nuances that probably every that a newcomer may face, that a person who is a contemporary may face, and probably a person who's now going to move out and do something different after he retires or she retires. So I feel women in leadership definitely play a very important role, because it's not only about as I said, compelling people to do certain tasks. It is about compassionate convincing and giving the right kind of support. And whether it is a woman leader or it is a man leader, the most important quality which I personally feel a leader should have is, removing
Communication.
obstacles from the individual's path, so that that individual performs to his full potential. That is the
Right.
role of leader, be it a man, be it a woman, you know So you nowadays you don't even have to tell them what has to be done. You just talk about where you want to move the organization to, and you'll have lots of ideas from people as to how we can move in that particular direction. Let me just quote something here. So SCMHRD is the only institution in Pune to have the AACSB accreditation. Now this
Wow.
definitely cannot happen without leadership. And
Right.
and so at that particular time, yeah, of course, I love academic administration. And while we were going through this entire rigor, you know of accreditation, yeah, I was the deputy director of the institution. So I have seen the entire journey absolutely very, very closely. And then in April 22, I took over as the director of the institution.
Wow.
And then you get a different perspective, or you say more deeper perspectives into being a leader. So I
Wow.
feel you just have to motivate people, and give them the right kind of support. And I think a lady is able to do it better. In fact, my background always is where I was always told, look, hello, men are equally good. So that's the way I was brought up.
Wow. Wow.
So I never I never actually had to struggle or prove to anyone. So probably
Right.
that just made the difference.
Wow. And because we have, no, I have a lots of questions to ask, but due to paucity of time, I just would like to, thank you for all your, your time that you made it to this podcast. But still, I'll still ask these two questions with you. To you, like, what is, you have been so subtle while answering all these questions. What is your secret sauce of being, being so calm, driving all these, questions so subtle and driving the from a leadership per se, being a dean and everything, right? How you can be so calm, and what advice for all the listeners to this podcast you have, especially to those who are have a aspiration, who have an aspiration in the field of management and HR. So these two questions, if you could answer for our
Yeah.
listeners, ma'am.
One important tip I would like to give every youngster, and seriously speaking, I really love to be with the young crowd. So number of years of experience have grown. My age probably moves 1 year every year, but the kind of crowd we handle, yeah, is always between the age of 24 to 26, 27. And one important advice which probably I live by always is, you will in your life, all you will get a rewarding career, no doubt about it. If you've come to this particular level, rewarding career is absolutely out of question. You all will get it. But what is very important is to choose a satisfying career. And this is probably one big reason for me to be a little bit poised in terms of whatever I will handle, because you have to shift your focus. A lot of times I tell all the youngsters, see, ultimately all the food goes in our stomach, but do we mix up everything and gulp it down our throat? We won't be able to do it. In fact, you won't be able to see the food if you mix everything together. So in the plate, yeah, you have to have the right food placed in the right quantity at the right time, which goes ultimately into your system. Same thing is with life. Life is not one after the other. Please understand. Everything has to go on simultaneously. Yeah, while we eat rice and dal, which is very filling, you have to have that small pickle which makes you think again. So that's life. You can't have just gulab jamuns in your plate where everything is very sweet. You won't be able to touch that plate next day. So life is a mix of negatives, positives, but you have to take them as it comes. And one important tip again, which I would like to give everyone is, please never ever hesitate to ask for support. You need any kind of support, you reach out to the person and ask for support. Asking for support is not a kind or It's not a sign of weakness. Asking for support is a sign of strength. So it may be psychological support, it may be academic support you need, it may be just at support at a family level. And you go ahead, ask for that support, and build that relationship with that individual. And believe me,
Yeah.
another tip which I have always lived by is, nobody is useless. People are just used less, and that is
Wow.
something that I always believe. So I would feel, take things in their stride. Everything happens the way it should be happening. Don't compare yourselves with somebody else. And these are some tips, people spoke about to me, and I always used to be, "Ah, what he's talking is farce now. He's already moved up the ladder." But seriously, after I moved in the last 22 years, this is something which I always realize. So moving from one particular level to the other and being focused. If I'm talking to you right now, I'm only talking to you. I am not thinking about anything else.
Right.
Yeah. So you take it one at a time. You ask the right kind of people for support and ask for that support. When in doubt, speak aloud. You cannot keep things to yourself and expect the problem will get resolved on its own. It may be a small problem, it may be a very big problem, but that is the value of human resources, you know so
Right. That's
just build
these are
that
very
block, build that cushion, and life is a beautiful experience.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, ma'am. Thank you for those. These were, brainstorming and as well as seemingly, likewise enlightening for me as well, and for everyone who is listening to this podcast. It both ma'am's thoughts provide a lot more clarity. How the way life works, right? So I hope you got some incredible insights from this podcast, and we are
Yeah.
coming up, with incredible all these incredible leaders. We are coming up with lots of initiatives. Maybe we can,
I would just like to
jump.
add one more piece for
Yes,
this
ma'am.
lecture.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I just add in just one more point?
Yes, 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 please, ma'am, please.
Yeah. And always make the right choices. Yeah. Make the right choices, choose the right things in life by doing your own research. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, when, as I told you in the beginning, we talk about functional knowledge and we talk about behavioral skills. Yeah. And
Yeah.
if you look at the kind of MBA which SCMHRD also gives, we give actually MBA in three domains. One is the regular MBA, where we talk about HR, marketing, finance, and operations. But another MBA is in the area of business analytics, and then we have third MBA, which is in the area of infrastructure development and management. While I'm talking about all this, we never miss that human element in any of these. So while each of them are various functions, we've always ensured that the behavioral aspects or the managerial skills are given to every individual who takes up our courses. And this
Wow.
is something I would like to urge to every student. Make informed decisions, and today you have a vast knowledge and so vast information, you can say.
Right.
Big data is something that you have. You draw your bit from that data. In a buffet, we go don't go and eat everything. People just
Right.
mistake a buffet, saying, how will we eat everything? No, no, buffet is not to eat everything. It is something for everybody. That's the
Yeah.
meaning of it, isn't it? Okay, so choose wisely, and I'm sure with the right kind of support which you will build in your career, you will be able to do very well in life. And I wish all the youngsters, because y'all are the people who are going to work in the Amrit Kal of India, and I wish all of you all the very best, and a great successful career.
Wow, it's the quality of words that are coming from you, ma'am. These are very kind, and again, it shows the real quality of an aspiring leader, right? So, thank you for all these insights and everything, right? And for all our audience, we will be, definitely. Because I'm thinking of the same. I hope you are also thinking for the same. After this podcast, we will definitely coming again. We will try to catch up with Dr. Netra, ma'am, anytime, somewhere in 2024. We will do a deep dive podcast, maybe somewhere around 1 to 2 hours podcast. I'll discuss more about human resources more, right? So we are coming up with lots of initiatives. Stay tuned. and keep learning always. Thank you.
Thanks, Lakshya. Thank you so much.